Perfect. Welcome to the SRS Liftoff call. My name is Frank Euphemia. We have Denzel Williams on today. I'm super excited. I got to find him though. Denzel, I know you're on because you texted me and said you're on. What is it under? Let's see. Robert Ronnie. Let me find him. Why can't I find him? Bear with me, y'all. Today's been a day. Denzel, can you raise your hand? Do you know how to do that? Why can't I find you, buddy? No. Hold on, y'all. Let me call him and see what his name's handles under. I didn't forget y'all. Hold tight. Denzel's having technical difficulties. All right. We're gonna just do a quick Q&A until I can figure out where Denzel is. Am I missing it? He's texting me saying he's on, and I'm not seeing him. All right. So if y'all could help me out and just ask a couple questions. Yes, Denzel Williams. Let's see. He may be in, but not his name. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And he just texted me. I'm like, dude, look at your phone, answer me. Here we go. Hello. All right, good. We're good. We're good. He's good. Oh my Lord. It's been a day. All right, let's see. Uh, 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 Hope y'all there he is. I just saw him. There we go. Hope y'all are having a good day. Denzel, there we go. Make co-host. All right, you can unmute yourself now, Denzel.
Okay, you hear me okay?
I can. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yourself?
I have never been better. Thanks for asking.
It's
I'm
awesome.
excited to have you on, Andrew's pump. You know, Andrew's like the greatest promoter ever.
Yeah, that's my promoter, man. My personal promoter.
He should get into like MMA or boxing because he would blow Don King out of the water. He's so good at it.
He might.
So, Denzel, how long you been at Family First Life?
I would say roughly now, going on my third year. Um,
Okay.
Kind of on and off. I was playing football before this, so I was like kind of dabbling in it, but I would say now that I'm definitely on my third year now.
And are you full time? Are you done with football?
We'll see if I'm done. I'll give myself this last year, but I am full time, you know. I'm definitely pouring all I got into this now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And did you come in doing final expense like most people, or did you come right out the gate doing IULs?
Yeah, no, I was doing final expense, mortgage protection, right, starting off. And then eventually it kind of like personally for me, I got kind of burnt out from it. And then I started slowly getting into the IUL space. And I just saw a difference in the people you were talking to, right? A lot of them
Yeah,
had, more money. They were a lot more serious. It wasn't really a sell. It was more so just, hey, reaffirming what they already know about IULs and then doing an application. And so ever since then, I just, haven't been able to go back to doing final expense because just like how much more of an easier conversation it is. But
yeah,
if someone can't get an IUL, you're right. I'll still write them like a whole life policy or final
for sure.
expense.
I think a lot of people get that confused. They're like, they're calling IUL leads, and they're like, well, it's not they don't want they didn't need an IUL. I'm like, well, write them what they need. Term,
Right,
like when you write mortgage protection, it was either a whole life, it was a term, it was an IUL, it was all the above. Our job is just to help people out.
right.
Um, so go down. Where do you live, Denzel?
So now I'm in Phoenix. I'm from New York originally.
You're from New York.
Yeah.
And where'd you play? You played at Villanova college
Yeah.
ball,
Yeah, I went to Villanova for college. Yep.
and you're a DB.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so this is what's exciting to us because it's like I always thought that if I could get around people that had that kind of money, like you could do some serious good for folks.
Yeah.
Because it's safe to say most people don't grow up with a lot of money. And then when they get a whole bunch of money, they don't know what to do with it. Hell, that happened to me the first time I made a bunch of money. My wife and I owned a mortgage company and I was 24. And then by the time I was 27, I spent every dime I had. The mortgage went bad. The market went bad. We lost everything we had. You know what I mean? But if someone would have been guiding us like, hey, do this, put some money in this IUL tax, like it would be so big. You have those connections. What teams in the NFL did you play for?
I played for the Ravens, and then after the
There
Ravens,
we go.
yeah. After them, I went down to the USFL, which is now the UFL.
Yep.
I was just playing in Canada this past year, but this year, if I was to play again, it would just be the NFL. If not,
Yeah.
I'm happy with what I'm doing now, and I'm just gonna move on.
You do. The Ravens got, I was listening to something this morning. They're like, the Ravens have seven first round draft picks starting on defense
Yeah,
this year, which is pretty well. I mean, so I live in Baltimore. I live outside of Baltimore, but I coached
right,
football for 17 years. And I think it's the greatest team sport. It's the greatest sport ever because it teaches you more about yourself than any other sport out there. And so when I was coaching, it felt like it was easy to motivate people because I compared everything to football. I haven't coached in, this is my fourth year now not coaching, and I was depressed for the first two. Can you tell us what that transition was like going from, you know, chasing a dream, smoking people, make interceptions, playing defense for a football team, NFL, whatever, UFL, they're all, I mean, it's high level football to kind of being in an office and just talking. How different was that?
yeah. I mean, I definitely would say it was a huge difference. I think mentally, though, even before I started playing, I always knew it wouldn't last, right?
Right.
Um, Always said the NFL stands for not for long, right? The average career is like, 2 to 3 years, and you could do everything right and just
Yeah.
could business, it just doesn't work out for you. So for me, I was always with my peers talking about like, what do you do outside of this? And I think when I was in the USFL, I met someone and they were already doing the life insurance. And I was like, okay, it sounds flexible. I can still work out, stay in shape. And that's kind of how I got into the whole life insurance. But it was a change, right? My whole life was every morning getting up, working out, couple hours, coming back, do it again, go to bed, right? And get paid for it, right? And then now, like, had to take those same principles into now, like, do I'm doing now with life insurance, right? Having a routine still, right? Getting my calls in and rinsing and repeating. But it was a change. But at the end of the day, I think I'm at a point now when I'm doing IULs. I actually enjoy it. It's not work for me anymore. I actually like being on a Zoom call with a client, giving them the
Yeah.
education about IUL. So, but when I was doing mortgage protection, I didn't really enjoy it, I don't think. I think it was more so just a way to make money. Um,
Yeah. And I think that's huge too, because and everybody's not going to like everything. I think you have to find what you're passionate about because it makes a big, big, big difference when you're passionate about the IULs because you believe in them and you see what they can do for folks. I owned a mortgage company, so I was naturally passionate about mortgage protection. It was my deal. But I like that you said that because I think a lot of people just say they're going to do this, but that might not be your lane. And you got to stay in your lane. And I think once you find that, that's a good place to be. Can you talk about? I love what you said about routine because it's huge. And so when I coached every year from pee wee football all the way up to middle school, then pre high school and high school, it was form blocking, form tackling. Like that's basic stuff is what we did. Went over gap assignments, like everything basic you think about football. What do you think are the five major basics of this business?
Five major basics of this business. That's a good question.
Or three or two?
Yeah, yeah. I would say just naming a couple off the top of my head, definitely just a routine is the one thing where every day, having that routine set up, from start to finish. I would say also being consistent, right? There's going to be times where, I make a sale one day and the next day I make none, right? Or 2 days straight, I make no sales, right? So being able to just every day still show up, regardless of how yesterday went, is very important. Um, and I would say also, being organized and having those skills to be, being able to like for me, having my schedule, having a calendar set up, having a CRM set up, having notes to, hey, text this client to run them, tell them that their payments coming up soon, right? So having, great organization, I'd say is very, very important. Um, and then I would say also the ability to be able to just like be marketable, right? Like you might think, oh, I'm not marketable, but like you and your story, you're marketable, right? So, whether it's your community, whether you're running ads, like get your face out there, right? People want to see a real human being talking about what
Mhm.
you're, right? So be marketable, and everyone in this room is marketable, regardless of your background or who you are, where you're at. Um, so I think from what I said just now, probably those are the main things for sure off the top of my head. Yeah,
Okay. And when did you make that switch to the IUL deal?
I would say that happened in June, June. So pretty
Just this
recent.
past June.
Yeah, just this past year. It's pretty recent, and
Okay.
I will look back. Yeah,
Talk to me about what that looks like, numbers, leads, and then we'll get in a little bit about, if you're one call closing, if you're setting appointments, we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it, but tell me what it looks like and how you made that transition. Cause I think a lot of people are trying to do that,
yeah.
but then cause did you pick it up right away?
I mean, it wasn't like right away. It was definitely a process, like learning
Okay.
about what I would do is like I was very tight with NLG, right? Like I would have their guys come on our Zoom and talk to our team about just different ways to build an IUL up. Because, I think when you're coming from final expense to an IUL, it can look kind of scary. That's why now when I'm bringing recruits in, I'm just having them right away, like get into the IULs because if you can understand IULs, doing mortgage protection and will be very, very easy. Um,
For sure.
so I think for me personally, my experience, I think I always knew about it. I mean, I would do, the simple IULs through Americo, Move. I knew how the concept worked. But now when it comes to like actually building up, an IUL, like an NLG, like, how you structure it properly, that was kind of different, because you also don't want to like mess it up for people because it is a investment. But I think it was a slow transition. Like I was
Okay.
still writing final expense, mortgage protection, and then just doing my homework, right? Going to the trainings for IULs, reaching out, doing my own, studying. And then eventually I said, all right, well, I kind of got the hang of it now. I'm gonna just go all in. And I think I would say basically the end of June, July, I think I had like a week where I did like 40,000 in 1 week. And then that was it for me. I was like, yeah, I'm never going back to final expense and mortgage protection. Yeah.
That's a pretty good week, I'd say. But I love that you said it was a transition, it was slow. Like you were still doing your bread and butter.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, hell, I mean, actually, I'm looking at Jesse Stams works with us, and I think he did, he same thing. He tried to jump in full speed and kind of stumbled a little bit. Fortunately for him, he was getting a severance deal, so he was still getting paid. You know what I mean? While he was learning that, but I think too many people just dive right in instead of just not toe dipping, but separating a little time off. All right, I'm going to do my final expense or whatever I do regularly good here. And then this day or two, I'm going to focus on learning the IOL aspect. Where, how did you learn? Did you ask questions? What videos did you watch? Did you have someone there supporting you, helping you?
I think it all started at the convention. You know how like all the reps be there, like NLG, America, Mutual Omaha. So I ended up getting a reps card from National Life Group. His name was Nate. I kept his information, and then I reached out to him. I was like, "Hey Nate, can you come on and talk about IULs? Like, give us a rundown how IULs work, how we should go about like explaining it, how to build it up." And then I think for that past like for the next 2 months, he would come on probably twice a month at least, and I would record the meetings. I'll have my team there, and we'll just keep learning and learning about it. And then I would just honestly too like just call the carrier. You have a question, call the carrier. Like I do that so many times.
Hmm,
I'll tell the client, give me 1 second, let me give them a call and ask them, about this question that the client just asked me. So I would say even if like you are transitioning, like don't feel like you gotta know everything, right? Because you can just call the carrier and ask them a question. And that was kind
for
of
sure.
my way of doing things when I first started. And I still do, right? You're always learning more, right? But that's would be my advice when, getting started on that transition.
Dude, carriers are so willing to help us if
Yeah.
you just use it, right?
Yeah.
Um, if you're so, are you doing more? How are you getting? What type of leads are you using?
So I'm doing all like online, like Facebook, Instagram.
Okay.
I
Are you
also,
generating them?
yeah. I also would say like, use your community. I know when I was down at National Life Group, there was this one person I met, and she literally doesn't even do ads. She just goes in her community and goes to these events and just talks about, IULs and gets all of her, sales from there. And I think 1 month she did in 1 month of issued premium like well over $500,000. Yeah, I think it is Piha. Yeah. That was
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah.
she's a beast.
Yeah, so she's a beast. And I was and for me, I always because one of my friends I play with whatever, most of my guys on my team, like they played sports, they're in and out the NFL, and they just use their network, right? They have a lot of guys that still playing, guys that trust them, and they just use their network. So I would say use your network, get in the community, show your face, go to these events, but also just to have that volume, run ads if you can. That definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so when you get your ads in, your leads in, are you doing one call closing, or are you setting up appointments?
Yeah, so I think it's a little different with IUL. Like when I was doing the mortgage protection, like I would like just try to OTS on the spot. I think what I do now with IULs, because they're usually funding the policy a lot more, they
Yeah.
usually do at least like 250 a month and higher. So I'll call them and say, hey, is now a good time? But they say no, we'll just reschedule, right? I'll just pick a day and time. If they say yes, I'll just get right into it and not look back. But just simply asking them, hey, is now a good time goes a long way. And that will kind of decide for me if I should keep going or not.
Okay. So let's just say, can we do a little role play?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. And are you zooming or are you over the phone?
So on my lead form, I have them pick an option. So if I pick phone call, I will call them, but I also use, I don't know if you guys use it now, called Crank Wheel, where I'll like, share my screen still. 'Cause I think that's been the biggest takeaway. And I learned that at the convention that Andrew had in Vegas a couple months ago. I think it was in February, I think it was. I learned
Yeah,
that goes a long way. And if it's Zoom, and I do Zoom as well. But most people do prefer Zoom. But either way, I still make sure that they're able to see my screen in the illustration because they got to see
that's
that.
super huge. Yeah, that's really, really big, especially if they're dumping in three, four, five, $600 a month.
Yeah.
All right, so let's role play. You're calling me. I go, hello.
Yeah. Hey, Frank. This is Denzel from National Financial Group. You probably saw us on like Facebook or Instagram, right? Regarding the IUL plans.
Yeah, I think it was on Facebook.
Okay, cool. I guess for you, Frank, is this your first time ever inquiring about an IUL or?
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. Do you have any kind of life insurance in place right now?
I have a small policy that I've had for a while, like a term policy for I think it's $100,000, something like that.
Okay, makes sense. And just before I kind of like, go into explaining how the IUL works, I guess just like get an understanding of why we're on this phone today. What are you looking to get out of the IUL? Like, what's kind of your goal? Like, do you have children you want to protect? Like, is it more so you want to become your own bank? Like, what is it for you?
So, I mean, yeah, I have children, I have a spouse, but what caught me was it said something about tax-free retirement.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And, when it comes to the IUL, I always break it down to three things. The first thing is it protects you now. So if you were to have some kind of like disability, illness, or injury, the plans will pay out to you, right? The second thing is a death benefit. I'm sure what's important to you is to make sure that if something happens to you, right, your loved ones are taken care of, right? I guess you would say you agree with that, Frank?
For sure.
So that's number two. The third thing is, being able to become your own bank, right? So how that works, Frank, is typically whatever you're paying to the policy monthly, a portion of that is going towards your savings in your policy. And typically on average, it's going to grow at like 8 to 10%, sometimes 12, right? And now over time, as your policy grows, you're able to become your own bank and borrow from yourself. Does that make sense, Frank, so far?
Yeah, so far.
Okay. Yeah, so that's the three things when it comes to a IUL. I know you might see a lot of different like videos online or ads explaining how IULs work. It's just three things. It's not complicated.
Okay.
But what I said so far, does any of that not make sense?
No, it all makes sense.
Okay, perfect. So what I will do first is just first give you, you know, this is the vision for today and the schedule. So basically how it works today is what I do is I go over, your health questions just to figure out which company you would even be approved for, right?
Okay.
Um, because when it comes to this kind of coverage, you gotta get approved for it first. And they base it off of your health and your age, right? And then also what you're gonna fund it with monthly. So that could be through Mutual of Omaha, it could be Americo, National Life Group, right? We're a broker, so we're gonna today find the best carrier for Frank. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Um, and then after we do that, we figure out, your health, how you're going to fund it. We'll then go into the application and I'll go over the illustration with you so you can see how your money compounds and how the policy grows. But from
Okay.
what so far about today's, schedule and how we're going to do things, is there anything you're unsure about, anything you want to bring up before we get started?
No, I guess just figuring out how much I got to put in would be the biggest question I have.
Yeah. And really like, people would ask me what's like an idea number. I mean, on average, I would say at least you would want to do 150 to 200 bucks, but everyone is different. Thing about IULs, you can always fund it more later. So basically, what I recommend for you, Frank, is we can figure out today what number makes sense for you. I guess like right now, today you can't buy the plan, right? But if
Right.
you get approved and we're gonna pick a date for the plan to start, Like, what's a comfortable number for you, you think?
I mean, I save every month
Mhm.
anywhere from 600 to 800 bucks.
Okay. And that's just a savings account, right? You just
Yeah,
put in
just going in my savings account. Yes,
like what, like 4% maybe interest.
if that.
So like that's kind of where IUL comes into place, right? You're getting a savings at 8 to 12%, but also the protection, right? So I guess like if you were to, hey, maybe you still want to have a savings, but I guess out of that savings, what would you be willing to allocate towards the IUL instead of just putting it all to your savings,
I
giving you a death benefit or living benefit?
mean, and I can increase this later on.
Yeah, you can increase it later on.
I'd say 350.
Okay. Yeah. So what I would do today, Frank, is like I'm gonna go into the illustration. I'm gonna type in your health and your age and what you're able to do a month, which is 350, and then we'll be able to see together how much coverage you'll get and how your cash value will grow. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And then after that, I show them the illustration, and then they ask their questions, and then we get into application, and then you just go from there.
Okay. So, what are your three major main objections you get?
Um, When it comes to the IUL, I think you said one, right? You mentioned like, oh, like I just want to know how much it would, you know, cost to get started. And to that answer, I always just say it's up to you. Like you're the one funding your policy. So like anything in life, however you put how much you put towards it, what you get out of it, right? So that's up to you. And obviously, Frank, you can always adjust the coverage, whenever you want to, if you want to put more into the policy. Um,
Okay.
and then I would say, um, there some people ask like about like what are the qualifications? So like I said earlier in the process, I told them that hey, we're gonna go over your health questions first, some of your background to figure out which company um we're gonna pick for you, right? Based off your health, your age, and what you're able to fund it with. Um, And then I would say another thing, what I try to do is I try to address every possible objection, right? So in the beginning, the reason why I'm even explaining you the process today, because I want to see if you're gonna balk at all. Are you gonna like have any resistance? I want to get that out the way. I want to know that now. I want to know how serious you are. I first also want to know why you want this, right? So I'll let you speak. I want you to speak more than me, right? I want you to sell me on why you want to get an IUL, right? I'm not here. You kind of already did your homework already. Mostly people know how IUL works. They already know, they watch tons of videos. So I'm just really there to give them reassurance and to really give them just a live um, I could say illustration on how the IULs work and got into the application process. So the start to beginning, I feel like the reason why I don't really get crazy objections because I'm telling you what we're gonna do before we do it. So,
Right.
you know, so it kind of avoids the objections, but the main ones are the ones I went over, just like, what's the medical like for this? Like, what's the, qualifications? How much do I have to put towards it? Right. And that's really the main ones I get. Right. And then I always say to them, hey, like, we're a brokerage, right? So we work with every top rated IUL carrier. So today we'll do the shopping for you. So now they're not going to be, oh, let me just take this number and go somewhere else. For what? We
Right.
work with every company. So every
For
objection
sure.
kind of addressed right away.
Do you ever get any pushback on getting banking? It's the biggest objection most newer agents run into.
Yeah, I think when it comes to IULs, I've gotten like if out of 10, maybe 1 out of 10, you know, with mortgage final expenses definitely a lot higher, maybe like half of them are, kind of nervous about it, which is funny, right? I feel like you would think people have more money would be a little more nervous of giving their banking away, but I guess it's the opposite. I don't know. But I feel like when I tell them like today you can't buy the plan, we're gonna apply for the plan and then see if you're gonna get approved. And then me, either being on Zoom with them or like crank wheel, sharing my screen. they know this is a live application. And then if I ever get pushback, I'll say, yeah, like, I guess, how do you plan on paying for the plan then? And I sit there and I
Yeah.
pause. I, I guess it's not free, you know that, right? Okay, so they gotta have something on file, for every month to keep the coverage in place for you and your family, right? So this is not for me, this is for National Life Group. If you download the app on your phone, you're able to basically control, what you're paying monthly. You can change your method of payment, but like, yeah, in order to finish the application, as you see, we're on the third to last, page here. Like, we got to finish that first, you know. If
Yeah.
we won't be able to, get you coverage. So this is, it's not like a me rule. It's just how it goes when you get life. This is your first time, I guess, Frank, getting coverage in place. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is how it goes.
I love that because like how nonchalant you were about it, almost like it's a dumb question. You need my banking? Yeah, duh. How did you do? Like every insurance people have, car insurance, homeowners insurance, like it's all automatically drafted. Like
Yeah,
nobody sends checks in. That doesn't even happen. Credit cards, like nobody pays for insurance with a credit card. So I liked how just nonchalant you were, and you're so like I don't want to say monotone, but you're just very calm throughout the whole process. It's wild to know that you can't be that way on a football field. Hell,
yeah,
you know what I mean? But it's like I think that works really well for you, and some people are different. Like some people are really excited and energetic. Denzel's like half bothered and like almost doesn't want to be there, but he is. You know what I mean? So I think that works well for you because it just fits.
yeah.
Um, so when we get to the part where you've done the application, someone asked about health. If you guys didn't hear him, he said he goes through the health and then does the illustrations. He's going through the health questions so he knows what illustration he can show them. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Um, so once we go through the application, everything's good. Then what do we do after that?
So one thing I will say when I get to the banking, because they're doing usually a lot more money, they're doing 1,000 a month, 2,000 a month, or sometimes even more. I'll say, okay, Frank. So just so you know, like usually when it comes to the carriers, it takes about 3 to 7 business days to know if you're going to get approved or not. If you do get approved, Frank, they will draft the first month's payment within those days. Does that work for you, or is there a certain day you want the policy to start and the payments to start? Because one thing I did notice, just being transparent, when I was doing IULs, I would get a lot of like payments returned because I would tell them like, hey, like if you get approved, we'll know in the next 7 business days, and then they'll draft the first month's payment. But a little bit like, really telling them like, hey, like, listen, it's gonna start within these 7 days. Does that work for you, that extra, this emphasis, or is there a date you want it to start? That goes a long, long way. And that's helped me so much more with like that not being a problem, right? So now they're prepared for it. They are putting more money into it because I would do so like this high volume final expense, right? Like it's just $50, $60, right?
Right.
They'll have it, but like they might not have it in their checkings $1,000, right? Within the 7 business days. So that's
You
huge.
just And I think of people, sometimes people are a little, they're afraid to say that because they don't want any pushback. But
Right.
in the long run, obviously, it makes you and saves you more money than just not asking. So, okay, we try to keep this around 30 to 40 minutes. It's been 35. If does anybody have any questions for Denzel while we have him? We have a couple more minutes. I do want to say one thing. You mentioned to me, and this is for everybody, this count grow between 8 and 12%. I'm always very cautious about giving numbers because if a client hears that, first of all, they're not going to hear 8, they're going to hear 12. They're going to be
Mhm.
like, Denzel told me 12. If I only grow 8, I'm mad at Denzel, right? So just a tip. I
Yeah.
always go the S&P will average 7.5 to 8% over a 20-year period. If you could, shit, in my savings account, I'm getting 0.6%, right? There's no money there. If you could return, you know, average 7.5%, would you be happy with that? Most people will say yes. You know what I mean? So I just want to be clear because we as agents have to be careful about that because clients will hold us to it. And this is big for the annuities as well. Like a lot of folks will go, oh, the annuity is going to average you 18, 20, they'll look at an illustration and show really high numbers. You just be very transparent with your clients. And I think that's why Denzel is good. He shows them all the illustrations and numbers, but we have to be careful what we say to people because we don't want them coming back to us going, you promised me this and it did this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the good thing too about National Life Group is like their illustration, it's locked. So you can't try to play around with like making it higher. I'm pretty sure it's like a 5% illustration. So I'll tell the client that listen, this is like a 5% illustration. We're not able to show you any higher. Listen, I can't guarantee anything, but on average, you can see 8% maybe, but it's
Yeah.
just average. But what we're able to show you them, today is a 5% illustration. They see that, right? So they're gonna see
Yeah.
the lowest amount anyway, which is good what NLG does.
And that's the way it should be done. It's the way you should pitch annuities. It's the way you should pitch IULs. Like Bridget just said, under promise, over deliver. You always win in that situation. But you over promise and under deliver, you're the devil. So, all right. What were the three benefits again? You tell clients in the very beginning of the IUL.
Yeah, so I just say living benefits, so it protects you now, right? If you were to have like a chronic, critical terminal illness injury, right? So the coverage that protects you now, that's the first one, all right? It protects you now. The second thing is the death benefit, right? And the third thing is, being able to become your own bank, right? So like a lot of times you'll see over social media, that's kind of how people know about an IUL, like, it's it's known to becoming your own bank, right? Because what you're paying into the policy is growing at a savings. Those three things: the savings, death benefit, living benefits.
Perfect. Um, and you're generating your own leads.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to hit on that because I think it's difficult to generate leads if you don't know what you're doing and
Yeah.
you can spend a whole bunch of money.
Oh yeah.
I've never generated a lead in my life because I don't know how to do it and it's just too easy for me to go buy them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, Arthur, to answer your questions, I can't help you with that. There are people that do it. I do know there are companies that help you do it. They charge you way too much money. Um, $10,000 a month to help you run Facebook ads, which is a joke. Leads, you can go to ILC, you can use the CRM center. There's a bunch of different lead vendors out there that you can get IUL leads, vet leads, final expense leads, mortgage protection leads. The deal with leads is they're just a lead. It's not a sale. You get as many as you can every week. And if you do that consistently, your numbers will work out. What does your lead flow look like, Denzel, before we wrap this call up?
Yeah, and just to add to that, like to your point, like these vendors, they charge a lot, or like the companies, like I was going through different market, I would kind of go through different marketing companies, and I end up like, just kind of just doing it myself. I kind of figured it out myself and save so much money. So like if anyone like just needs some help on that, like I'll put my number down there below. You can reach out. Um,
Nice.
lead flow wise, I see myself about having 10 booked appointments a day, right? I would say right now, like every day about like 20 to 30 leads come in, right?
Okay.
And then obviously, as you keep increasing your budget, that number goes up. Um, I think what helps a lot is having a system or a CRM that like does a self-booking, right? I have noticed people that book appointments, they actually show up more rather than if someone doesn't book appointment, they're not as serious. They're kind of already vetting themselves out the way because I noticed people that booked, they always answer their call most of the time. Sometimes they don't, but the ones that literally don't book at all, they just miss because it's an automation I have where like after they fill the form out, it says, here, book a time here. So if you're missing that, like I know you're just kind of not that serious,
For
right?
sure.
So
Unless something came up. But that's a pretty because and I've got a lot of information doing these calls over the last 2 years, and people like, I book appointments, people aren't there. Well,
yeah,
this is different because they're actually going to your calendar, booking it the time that they want, which is also it's like a filter. You're filtering out people that aren't interested. So by the time they get to your calendar, you pick up the phone and call them and they answer, dude,
mhm.
that's a pretty strong deal. You know what I mean? What CRM do you use?
Go high level.
Go high level. Okay. So did you create your own CRM?
Nah, I'm not that smart.
So yeah, okay. So most of them use Go High Level. And then guys, don't forget about Life Center.
Yeah.
That the special they're running with you write 10 apps through Life Center to give you $1,000. You can buy leads with that, do whatever you want with it. Um, Denzel, anything you want to say before we wrap this up? This call was really, really good.
No, I'll put my number in the chat. If you guys have any questions, you can, shoot me a text. I mean, definitely, one thing I'll say is like you're in the right field. I mean, I have guys that, are in and out of playing football and they're like, man, like, what are you doing? Right. So this is definitely the field that you want to be in. Just because it's unlimited. And I
For sure.
definitely would say, keep doing what you're doing, find your niche, but definitely I would recommend to get into that IUL space because there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of money out there. And if you're already crushing it with final expense and that high volume, it'll be a lot easier when it gets to IULs for sure.
Heck yeah. It's less and it's less time. I mean, I'm not saying you don't still work, but when my average premium, Denzel, when I was in the field was $180 a month. The
Mm,
average premium across the country was like $80 a month. So
wow.
for every one app I wrote, someone else had to write two and a quarter apps to catch me. You know what I mean? So it's like, why would you not do that with the IULs? It's the same thing. So, dude, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing with us. If Baltimore calls you and you go play for the Ravens again, you need to
Yeah.
hit me up and get me on field pass so I can come play with y'all.
You guys are
Fair
all
enough?
invited, man.
Let's go. So, guys, make it a big week. We'll see you all Monday at noon on the Builders Call. If you're not on Sean's call tomorrow or Fridays at noon, get on that. It's huge. Until next week, appreciate y'all, Denzel. Thank you so much. Love you guys.
You guys later.